And here we are spawning in the upper left. In the blue for NC Sports. He's SERRAL. And in the bottom right, in the red, for Dragon Phoenix Gaming, give it up for Dark. As we see SERRAL going for a 12 pool here in this game number 1. He doesn't want to play the longer games, the more intense games that we saw in the round of 16, or at least not to start off with. He wants to put this series in a little bit different tempo than what we saw earlier on, and that makes a lot of sense. You know, SERRAL is known for his standard late game macro play. He's very good at it. It's what he does. And that, well, maybe that's what Dark is expecting here in this game. So SERRAL says, you know what? It's time for me to counter some expectations here. 12 pool away. We're going to get 8 to 12 zerglings out at once the pool pops. And we're going to go and see what we can to make sure that we can knock the hatchery down. Now, realistically, most zergs, that's not what's going to happen. Not at the pro level here. Dark will finally get his hatch gas pool. So he's going to hit, the pool's going to go down at 16 supply. And that means he's not going to have much to deal with this 12 pool for quite a bit. But again, this is the standard. Dark is well aware of how exactly you have to hold this. So of course the goal for SERRAL here, and this is what's going to happen, is his zerglings will find his way to the other side of the map before the hatchery is complete. And it bears noting that the hatchery, when it's complete, has 1 armor. When it's building, it has 0. So the zerglings do more damage to the hatchery before it's done. So SERRAL, that's his really key timing there here. The longer he can just chew away at that hatchery before it completes, the better it's going to be for him. That means he has a higher chance of knocking it down. But the hatchery he will arrive pretty much as the hatchery does complete. So not a whole lot of damage to happen there, but just enough as now Dark does decide to pull his workers. And this is kind of what you do. So you go and you pull and you posture. And you say, hey, SERRAL, you're not really going to be allowed to do that. So SERRAL actually is very happy to take this fight, as he will get 1 drone immediately. And the whole thing Dark is doing here is he's just doing what he can to delay this as much as possible. As he waits for his own zerglings, and he's just trying to not lose too many drones in the process. So now look at here, SERRAL is taking the fight, but Dark has as many zerglings as SERRAL does. The drones have been pulled, and now SERRAL, he's just going to look to maybe run it into the main base, but he certainly cannot make anything more aggressive happen in this game. Now there is an opportunity here for SERRAL to say, you know what, this natural is really low. This natural's really low. Maybe I can, with some follow-up aggression, maybe I can get something done. And I did get 4 drones, so maybe I got that going for me here. But Dark, he has pulled off of gas. He just going strictly into speed behind this, and they're just a bunch more lings. Dark just looking to hit a just massive zergling speedling timing here. And he says, you know what, SERRAL, you didn't get what you needed to get done. You don't. I know you don't have speed. You won't have speed for quite a bit here. You just won't have the gas for it. You don't have what you need for a baneling nest. You're really just not going to be able to defend what I'm going for unless you are explicitly just building a ton of zerglings behind this. That, or if you get a good wall. And well, SERRAL is doing none of those things. We do have an Evo chamber on the way, and SERRAL is running it behind this. But Dark, notice this. He's pushing his queens forward. The goal here is to remove all early warning scouting from the map here. So when Dark floods across the map with what are we at? 29 with up to with something like 40 zerglings, SERRAL will know about it. Okay, but now SERRAL will see this, but this is only the initial lings. These are only the initial lings that Dark built to be able to defend the 12 pool. So SERRAL is going to look to make a little bit of a wall here, but he will cancel it. Okay, it wasn't satisfied with the timing, I guess, with the location. And now the zerglings will come flooding out in here, and this is where it becomes problematic because there are more and more zerglings on the way. Drones have to be pulled to make the defense, and that's going to be a problem because this is just a lot of speedlings. They're getting a full surround on top of these queens, and SERRAL, oh no, he's just been a little bit too greedy here in game number 1. Dark, he's going to take it. And there we go. When your 12 pool doesn't work. That just kind of happens sometimes. Really, really great counterpunch there from Dark. He identified this timing that he could hit, where SERRAL would have no tech and Dark would have tech. And speedlings are just infinitely better than slowlings. 9 times out of 10. So, really great timing there from Dark. And so it goes. Dark now with that 1-0 lead. Let's go on in to game 2. And here we are spawning in the bottom right, in the blue for NC Sports. Give it up for SERRAL. And his opponent in the upper left In the red, up 1-0 off of a really nice 12 pool counter. He is the one. The only. He's Dark. So our big question here is, what are we going to see in Game 2? First of all, we're not seeing an early pool. That is not what's happening here for both players. We just see the 16 hats coming on in. Perfectly timed. We just see the hats go down for SERRAL just a little bit faster. But these things, they're inconsequential in the grand scheme of this series. So where are we going to go here? When I talk about ZVZ, I like to talk about certain breakpoints. Whether there's an early pool, whether there's a 12, 13, 14 pool, because that means early aggression. Then the second breakpoint you're looking at is whether the third base goes down. Whether SERRAL or Dark, whether SERRAL and Dark do decide to go for that third base at 28 to 32 supply, whether they hold off on it and get it about 48 supply, which means it's 2-base tech, it's mutas or speed roaches, or something like that. And then, of course, that third breakpoint, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in a second, that third breakpoint you deal with at about 27 workers, where that is the big Ling flood number. We don't know. We're going to find out. It very much is dependent on how Dark wants to play this series. Now, bear in mind, it is worth bearing in mind that Korean ZVZ is a lot more aggressive than European ZVZ is. A lot of the, well, Rainer and Dark really are the players that really drive European ZVZ forward, and they're good enough that early aggression 9 times out of 10 doesn't really do a whole lot, so it just makes sense that it's kind of fallen out of the meta, and it's kind of one of those funny things where because the aggression does not do a ton, it's more effective. So SERRAL, Dark, theoretically Dark's aggression here might be a little bit more effective than SERRAL would be expecting, strictly because it's not a thing. And actually Dark has not pulled drones out of his gas here, so this either means he's going to commit pretty hard to zergling Baneling Wars, or this means he wants to go for an early lair. We're going to have to see. SERRAL, of course, does have a third base on the way. Dark does as well. But we're not quite at that 27 worker mark yet. We should see Baneling Nest coming down. If players are going to opt for Baneling Nest, it's going to come down in the next 2 or 3 supply. There we go. Baneling Nest for SERRAL. Looks like we're not going to see it. Oh, there we go. Dark as well. And do we still have... is Dark still 3 out of 3 on gas in the main base? He is. This is this is a lot of gas coming in from our reigning world champion here. And that makes me think that we will see a zergling flood coming on as we do get up to that 27 worker count. And actually, especially with the queens here, removing all the creep, Dark is really setting up to give himself the option to hit an incredibly powerful timing. But 5 workers are on the way, so that's just not going to be what happens. And it should be noted here, SERRAL is famous for his incredible scouting. He scouts just about every 30 seconds. Almost always gets something in, and he just really knows what he he's really good game reads. That being said, though, Dark is doing a really good job of denying scouting in this game. So we do have the lair on the way, second gas on the way here. I think this is going to be mutas strictly because SERRAL doesn't like mutas, and Dark played mutas a lot in the first series that they played against each other. So that may be what Dark's tech choice is. We will have to see where the gas goes. But actually, no, if the Roach War in addition with the lack of the gases in the natural, I think it may just be some sort of Roach tech, and SERRAL will now get a zergling on in here, sees the timing on the lair, and that's all he needs to know, because SERRAL, he's going for something a bit aggressive of his own. We do have Carapace on the way here for our blue zerg, and it bears noting that Carapace is not a long-term tech path. Carapace does not get you into the mid game, into the late game, but it does allow you to hit this incredibly powerful timing where your zerglings are harder to kill, your banelings are harder to kill, and your roaches are also harder to kill. Zerglings, of course, they take 2 shots from banelings instead of 1 now. Oh, we do have a couple banelings running on into the third base. SERRAL, is he paying attention? He is barely just in time. As there we go. Only 2 workers will go down. Good pull there. And now we have 12 roaches are on the way here. SERRAL getting primed and ready for this big bit of aggression here. And, well, Dark will get the scout on this, but maybe just a little bit too late. He does see that, well, okay, that I didn't get a lot of drones. But the important thing, of course, is SERRAL just has this big push coming on in. So we have a bunch of banelings on the way, a bunch of roaches, a couple spines, as, well, Dark wants to make sure he holds, and SERRAL cannot really commit to this pressure before his +1 is done. And that's not done for another 30 seconds. So that's what we're going to have to see SERRAL deal with here. And that will provide time for the spines to complete. So now we do have SERRAL going in. Those banelings are actually going to make really good connections on the banelings of SERRAL, so not going to be nearly as impactful. And now banelings coming crashing on in, into the roaches, into the queens, into pretty much everything else of SERRAL here. But, I mean, look at this Dark. He knew about this far enough in advance. Defender's advantage is a thing. And yes, +1 Carapace is a thing for Dark here, but I mean, look at the supply. 97 supply to 75. SERRAL's attack is just getting bopped aside. Those baneling connections on top of the majority of the banelings of SERRAL absolutely making the difference here. And now SERRAL, he's not in a good spot. He does not have a lair. He does not have any sort of aggressive tech options. And Dark says, okay, well, I'm just going to take this timing, and I'm just going to go for a Spire here. That tech path that SERRAL does so despise, and that is exactly what's going to happen in this game. And you know, SERRAL, he doesn't know about this. We have no spores on the way. I mean, granted, you don't start spores yet, but we don't have extra queens on the way here. And that is the really big deal. It looks like SERRAL's just piling in for just another counterattack. He says, look, I'm not going to win this game if it goes late. I fully understand that. So I'm just going to hit another big timing. And that's going to be the goal. But the upgrade advantage that SERRAL had, it's not really there anymore. +1 is done for the roaches. So yeah, the banelings are not going to be that much any more impactful than they already were, but we have speed roaches. And we have +1 speed roaches, so they will absolutely shred these zerglings once again. And the army of SERRAL, he's coming on in, and he does have to, Dark does have to be careful to not just tank a bunch of baneling hits. But, well, I mean, the army supply lead is here for SERRAL, but Dark doesn't have defender's advantage. He has queens, he has spines, he has everything that he could possibly want to really make this defense. The banelings will get a lot better connections this time, though, and the spine will be able to unburrow in time, but now we have SERRAL crushing on in here in this last-ditch effort to take this game number 2. But the zerglings, they're not really getting a whole lot done. We have more spines done here. The spines are shelling away. Drones have been pulled to defend this. But as long as Dark can make the hold, he will be A-okay in this game, and he is starting to make the hold now. Defender's advantage coming to fruition here, and Dark, he's going to take game number 2. And that is that. Dark taking 2 really quick games. And, well, so now it's time to go on to game number 3, as SERRAL looks to really start a comeback. Dark, of course, he's the former world champion. He's not a bad player by any stretch of the imagination. But you would expect SERRAL to take the win here, just because, I mean, SERRAL has an incredible record against Dark, but Dark, he is up 2-0. So, let's get ourselves on in to game number 3. And here we are spawning in the bottom right, down 2-0, looking to mount a comeback for NC Sports. He's SERRAL. And in the upper left, in the red, up 2-0, looking dominant here in this grand finals. Give it up for Dark. So the question we ask ourselves, as we ask ourselves in the start of any game, is what in the world are these players going to go for here in this game number 3? Now, Death Hour, it's a bit bigger of a map. It's a bit more defensive of a map. And that will provide SERRAL Dark maybe a little bit more opportunity to not do something that is all in, something that does not decide the game before 6 minutes. I would not be surprised to see Dark go for Mutas here, as, of course, Death Hour has the most dead airspace of any map in the pool, so it does give you a little bit more of an opportunity to get something done with the Mutas than in other maps, potentially. That being said, though, that is just one tech path, and we're going to have to find out what these players do decide to go for. Now, once again, we do not have no early aggression coming on in from either player, or the earliest aggression, I should say. I mean, there's always the possibility that Dark, SERRAL, they go and they hit that 27 zergling timing. There's a 19 Roach timing that really you don't see in ZBZ nearly as much as the other matchups, but it's possible, I suppose. We should take a moment to talk about the pool placement here, just because this is a map that it became important on for a brief period of time before everyone just kind of stopped doing it. Notice here, Dark, he has his pool relatively close to the ramp. Actually, this pool is not even, never mind, the pool's not even in the proper position. There is a wall-off you can do with a Evo Chamber, a hatchery, and your pool that defends from the 12 pool spine pull all in. That really we haven't seen very much anymore. And Dark was actually one of those players that really first started doing it. He and SERRAL, his practice force is Scarlet. On this map in particular was what brought the idea to the forefront and then became iterated upon, and Lambo did a lot of work with it, and Panda Bear Me did a lot of work with it. But part of that relies on putting your pool pretty much as close to the ramp as possible so you can get that full wall off, but that really is not a thing. And it's interesting we don't see the pool in any sort of location that will allow SERRAL to have a little bit of a refuge for his queen should Zerglings get on into the main base. But realistically, we don't see that a lot anymore because this is not just because of how the builds match up, to be totally honest. Now we do have Dark and SERRAL going for their third bases at just around the same time. So it should be noted that at this game, Dark has just done a really good job of removing the scouting. But look at that, SERRAL. He is just such a good player. Notice he puts his Zerglings and he body blocks the queens that are looking to knock his Overlord off the map to make it so the queens miss 2 shots that allows the Overlord to survive, which is the smallest of things. And realistically, I don't know if anyone other than SERRAL really thinks of that, but man, what a player there. That is really, really cool. So now SERRAL, his speed is done just a little bit faster, maybe going to give him an opportunity to get a scout in before anything happens, but no, that's not what's going to happen here. And now we have a Spire on the way for Dark here in this game number 3. And this is roughly the Muta timing. There we go. Second gas on the way. We're going to have to keep an eye on the gases on the natural. Dark is fully saturated on that natural base, so we would, if he is going Mutas here, we should see gases on the natural sooner rather than later. Alright, there we go. +1 melee is on the way. We have our gases getting taken. Dark, he's going for Mutas in this game, number 3. Makes a lot of sense. This is a map that is pretty easy to defend your natural, defend your third base. If your opponent goes for a Roach timing, you still have opportunities to get stuff done with melee Zerglings, and you just have tons and tons of data. Oh, look at that, Dark! He's going to morph a couple banelings in the wall so the Zerglings cannot get in from SERRAL. We're looking at some really high-level scouting denial and scouting anti-denial, I guess is what you want to call that with the Zergling body block. Just seeing some really cool next-level play on things. Alright, so we have the Spire just about a third of the way done here. Larry is now finishing up for SERRAL, so SERRAL will not be able to hit any sort of big speed Roach timing that kind of piles in before the Spire is complete. And I'm not, well, you know, I think he probably has a decent idea about what his opponent is doing at this point. Because all he has seen is Zerglings, and when all you just keep scouting our Zerglings, and you just keep scouting Zerglings, you keep scouting Zerglings. Nice little Bailey run by, only getting 2 workers, but we'll force drones off the line for a little bit. When all you just see is keep seeing Zerglings, that kind of is a tell in and of itself that perhaps your opponent is going for Mutas here in this game number 3, and that would be a good assumption if that's what SERRAL goes for. Now Dark realizes that he is still vulnerable to some sort of attack here, so we do have 4 spores or 4 spines on the way. And well, if Dark is able to get a Zergling into the third base, he will be able to cancel those because he says, well, you know what? Yeah, okay, he gets that cancellation. Anyways, he does see the fact that there's just not a lot here. He realizes that the timing that he's looking for, it's not really going to hit, so he will be able to stay safe. And now SERRAL, he knows that Mutas are on the way, so there we have a Hydra Den coming down immediately. And that is an interesting decision. So, traditionally, the way you hold against something like this is you just Mass Queen, Mass Spore. You get the Hydra Den, but you don't really get a lot of Hydras. You just go straight to Lurkers and Hive, and that's kind of how you do things. And now SERRAL, look at this. He's preemptively getting his 4th base before the Mutas are really on the map. And that will allow him, theoretically, to be able to hold this 4th base. He's done a really good job of spreading the creep, so he will be able to get a couple spores up to defend it. And traditionally, the hold here Nice job there denying that changeling. Traditionally, the hold here that you're dealing with as SERRAL is you're doing it off of 3 bases. So if SERRAL can go and make this hold off of 4 bases, if he can really truly establish that 4th base, that is going to be a really, really good thing for him. So now we do have the queens cycling on over into to be able to defend the 4th. And now it's zergling run by. We'll get a couple drones here. Nice job from SERRAL, making sure that he doesn't lose, or make sure that he forces the mutas back. Make sure he forces the zerglings back. And that's a good thing to do. Now Dark, he's going for more than just the 4th base. He's got a 5th base on the way, and this is the rich Vespine base. So that is something that if Dark gets, he's just gonna have unlimited mutas, unlimited banelings. So now SERRAL will find his way on in, and the Spore actually in an okay spot. It should be a little bit further away, further towards that 1 gas, as we know have a zergling run by going on into the 4th base as well, but will not be successful. SERRAL doing a really good job of splitting his army up. And now our Lurker Den is done, 7:30 into the game. So now we have an infestation pit on the way, and I would think this is just for a fast hive. That being said, though, SERRAL has shown a propensity for going for, like, 2 infestors over the course of the game, and then so he can take that fight and maybe catch a couple banelings with a couple mutas with the fungals and go from there. But this is still a lot of mutas, and they're going to go in and do what they can to snipe the banelings, and that should be a tell for SERRAL about what's going to happen here, as banelings in the army of SERRAL do make it a little bit more difficult for banelings to come crashing on into his 3rd base. Now we have banelings running on in here. Queens are firing away, but SERRAL, he's not pulling the drones, not in time. 8 workers, 9 workers, 10 workers do go down, as well as a Spore. So that means there is a little bit of an opening here that Dark can maybe run on in. SERRAL will rebuild that, though. And now with all the lurkers coming in, it's a whole lot harder to get these banelings on in anywhere. A couple more workers will go down. 6 more workers. That's actually a surprising amount. I expected 3, but nope. 6 more workers do go down. Now SERRAL, I'm not going to say his economy is hurting, because, I mean, the whole goal here is turtling on these 4 bases. You do expect to lose a decent amount. You do expect to take damage. You do expect to not be mining as much as your opponent for a good bit of time. But that's kind of the whole point of things. I mean, you're just sitting here turtling. You're going to get up into your hive. You're getting more and more lurkers, and you're just making it to the point where Dark just cannot trade efficiently in the slightest. So more and more lurkers are on the way here. And yeah, there we go. We'll go down. This is pretty cool, though. This is a move that SERRAL does not see coming. We do have 5 Overlords worth of +2 Zerglings now getting ready to go get dropped here on into the main base, and that will force a whole hullabaloo here. As now Dark's going to look to dive on top of these Spores. Now the mutas will be able to get the lurker, so there's less defending the 4th base, and now there's a problem. As what is that? 40 Zerglings now unloading on into the main base here. Banelings are going to come crashing on into the 3rd. But now, again, 40 Zerglings in the main base. They're just going to go look to do and attempt to DPS down this building hive. And considering, well, they may be able to get it here. That looks like they're going to be able to get it. Now, SERRAL, he has to fight multiple places at once. And now with the Hydras are coming on in the hive. Is it going to go down? Is it going to go down? It barely, oh my goodness, 15 health. 15 health there. That being said, though, now Dark is just getting a lot of damage done elsewhere on the map. 11 workers have gone down. Overlord's now under threat, and that becomes a big problem. But Dark has found himself some free Hydras. And the lair, the hive, it's dead. Yep, just GG, okay. Yeah, Dark doubling the supply of SERRAL. And that's what's going to happen when you cannot get up to those Vipers that you need. When you cannot get up to those Lurker upgrades that you need. The game just becomes very difficult. Very difficult indeed. So now Dark, he finds himself on match point. He's just looked absolutely dominant in this series. And we're going to have to see whether he's going to be able to take it home, whether SERRAL will be able to start a reverse sweep as we get ready to move on into our 4th and potentially final game of the series. This game will be on Juggernaut, the longest map in the pool, so I don't expect too much early game shenanigans, but you never know with how this series has gone on. But anyways, our players and, well, your caster, we're all loaded into game number 4. And here we are spawning in the bottom left, in the blue. Representing NC Sports, looking to claw his way back into this series. Give it up for SERRAL. And in the upper right, in the red for Dragon Phoenix Gaming, on match point here, on series points, on tournament points. He's the one, the only. He's Dark. As he looks to speedrun his way through the grand finals here. SERRAL, though, he's looking to have something to say about that, as he will go for a gas first here. The 16-15 gas pool, that is not something you see all that often. You'll see 14-13, 13-12. You'll see 14-13-12, as that's the Scarlet build. This one, though, this one is not a common build, not in the slightest. As SERRAL will start to pull mine gas from that immediately. He's not going to rally drones into the gas. He will just immediately pull them off the mineral lines to make sure he gets his gas early as possible. And I guess this is just going to be kind of a variant of the Scarlet build, just with a little bit delayed. The hatch is a little bit delayed. Actually, you know what? Yeah, the hatch is delayed. The Scarlet build, you can kind of tell that it is the Scarlet build, which is of course the build she killed Rogue with in Game 2 of GSL Season 1 of this year. You can tell it's the build because the hatch is a little bit too early. This time, though, SERRAL's hatch is a little bit too late, and again, that will also be a tell here for Dark. As, well, okay, and he says, yep, it's going to be pool first. That makes sense. Now, this is pretty cool. Notice this SERRAL, he's moving across the map with 2 zerglings. And he says, okay. Dark says, yeah, this is pool first, but it's just a scout. I mean, this is not all that aggressive. Dark will see those 2 zerglings moving across the map, and that's that. That being said, though, notice SERRAL, his extra 4 zerglings, they've moved across the map on a sneaky location that the Overlord will not scout. And these are 4 zerglings that will hopefully, SERRAL is planning on turning them into a couple banelings, as he's looking to hit just a really big zergling baneling attack across the map here in this 4th game. As he says, you know what, Dark, I don't like the way these games have been going. I want to take a quick win, put myself back in the series, and go from there. So now SERRAL, he will see that, yeah, Dark's taking a 3rd base, and this is good for SERRAL. That means that Dark has not really sniffed out exactly what SERRAL is going for in this game. So now the baneling nest is done. Speed is done in just about 10 seconds. There we go. We'll be done at exactly 3 minutes. And more zerglings on the way. SERRAL has been pooling them. This really does play like a variant of the Scarlet build. So now Speedlings run their way across the map, and Dark, he's got to go into panic mode just a little bit here. Would not be surprised to see him cancel his 3rd base. There we go. 3rd base is canceled, and we do have 4 banelings on the way. That being said, look at this zergling though. Look, it's done such a good job of making sure that the wall does not go up. And yes, the wall does eventually go up here, but it's going to have a little bit less health. And now SERRAL, he's going for a baneling bust, crashing all the way in. Banelings will have to go off here to fight their way through this wall. And there we go. The wall is down. Zerglings come streaming on in here. Zerglings surrounding all the queens. But maybe, just maybe, this is bought enough time for Dark to make the hold that he's looking for, as he's actually taking a pretty good fight against these Zerglings. Yes, a baneling is morphing. Queens will be able to target that down, though. And there are just not a lot of Zerglings left. Dark, his timing, he has Zergling speed now. And yeah, 2 queens have gone down, but 2 queens, that is not, you got to do more than that, SERRAL. You got to do more than that indeed to make sure that you hold this game, to make sure that you win this game. And Dark, he's got his baneling nest done. He has speed done. He has a full wall here. He's running up behind this. He says, you know what, SERRAL, this is not your game. This is not a game that you can win here. Not anymore. I have held your cheekiness. I have held your shenanigans. And now all I got to do is convert it into a victory, and I will be the champion of TSL6. Now, SERRAL, behind this, we do have a lair on the way. I got to imagine this is for a Nidus. He can't afford any sort of Muta play. As there we go, we do have 2nd gas on the way here, so maybe this is going to be for some really weird cheeky mutas. But anyway, lair on the way. Dark, though, +1 range. He says, oh, okay, never mind. No +1 range is on the way. He just wants that lair just a little bit faster. Now we have +1 on the way. Roach Warren, excuse me, on the way here. And Dark, he's going to look to, well, he's just going to look to hit this really big 2-base speed Roach timing. And I don't hate it. SERRAL, he does not have an economy. I mean, he's been joining up hard, so he is eventually getting back into an economy here, but look at the difference. SERRAL here, he's down 10 workers. He's down a little bit army supply, but he's just not able to get the tech he's looking for. But this will be Spire tech here from SERRAL in this game number 4, and that would be pretty cool if Dark was not going for speed Roach timing. So, you know, maybe SERRAL can survive here before until the mutas come out. But I am just worried that Dark's going to be able to pile on in here with just so many Roaches. And yeah, SERRAL, he can maybe, the mutas will come out, and he'll be able to eventually clean the Roaches up. But I'm just worried that SERRAL will just lose everything before that does happen. Now, we have the Roach production starting here as Dark continues to build Overlords. Speed is on the way, +1. +1 is just about halfway done, so they're going to time up pretty nicely. And Dark, well, he's just going to hit that timing. Now, SERRAL has done an admirable job of making sure that he does get his economy up. It's not there yet, but it's getting pretty close to economic parity at this point. But I mean, we're seeing the supplies start to expand. The delta start to expand here, and that's what's going to happen. As now we do have the gap is opening. Dark can take his third base, but Dark also has scouted the fact that SERRAL, he is going for a Spire here, and he knows that, hey, you know what? My Roach speed is just about done. I have +1 just about done. And he's going to go for a Nidus to follow up here. So we're going to have our first set of Roaches. They're going to run across the map. Nidus is on the way. Reinforcements are going to come through that Nidus, as well as a bunch of Queens. So now Zerglings streaming on in here. A couple Banelings running in as well. And really nice micro here from Dark. Make sure that he does knock off, though, really the one Baneling that is in existence. And a couple Banelings now running on in into the natural here. Looking to make a connection on all these workers. Oh no, SERRAL, you got to be careful. And 5 workers will go down immediately. And these Zerglings also doing a really good job of removing the spines. And now we just have a bunch of speed Roaches. They're running on in. And this is it. GG! Dark will beat your grand champion